Hi, and welcome to the Quantum Wealth Podcast. Today, I'm so excited to talk to you about something that came through for me recently from several real life experiences, and it is about being the yes and person. So recently, I hired a designer, and I worked for a while on a project with this designer. I'm going to be as vague as possible to protect their privacy. And so many ideas that I brought to the table were met with the word no. So let me give you an example. There was a font I loved, and the designer said, no, it won't work. There is a typo in this font. So I reached out to a friend of mine who's very techie and said, okay, there's this typo in this font. Is there a way to fix this? He fixed it in, I don't know how long it actually took him, but he replied to my email with a new font with a quick fix. I think it took him 5 minutes. And here is something that I know to be true. The most successful people in the world, they don't lead with no. They lead with yes and. They lead with how. And here's why I think this is so important. I see this in my clients and in their employees. And here's why this is so important. Because energy is everything. Your clients can feel your energy. There are many people who have hired me because they like my energy. They like being around me. That is also true with teams. A lot of your employees might work for you because they like your energy. The contractors you hire, the people that you hire, the people that you work for, it's just a feeling of being around them. And if you are surrounding yourself with people that are very resistant, this filters into your workflow, into your energy, and into your client's experience. And that also, in turn, affects your money. It affects your revenue. And it's really, really important as the CEO, as the boss, as the leader, as the founder, to hire someone who has the energy that you want your clients to experience, that you want your clients to receive. Your clients choose you or your service or your product because they like you. There is something about you that they connect with, that they like. And the people that you surround yourself with are bringing their energy into your business. And this is why it's so important that they have the energy that you want. So if you have employees who have a no first mindset, it's not just about their attitude, it's about the frequency in your business, the frequency with which they communicate with clients, through which they communicate with other employees, through which they communicate with you. It is contracting the possibilities that are possible instead of allowing you, your business, your company, themselves to expand. I want you to think about this in the same regard of the people that you hire. The people that you hire, for example, this designer that I hired, they bring their energy into the business. And for me personally, the energy that I want in my business is like anything is possible, right? This is the Quantum Wealth Podcast. I am all about the quantum field. Yes, and has to be part of who you are if you're part of my world. So any hires I make, anyone who's around me, that energy is so important. And if you are looking to quantum leap, if you want access to everything that's in the quantum field, you're going to want to have that same attitude because ultimately it's about you. You are the most important thing in your business. So here's the question I have for you today. If you want to quantum leap, if you want to be someone who works with the quantum field, who brings in all of their desires, are you a yes and person when it comes to your own ideas, your next level, your dream, your business? And here's what I mean by yes and. This is really a concept that it's all about improv. It's about never shutting anything down. Build on what is there. So in improv with actors, you never shut down the person that you're acting with, your partner, the other person in the play, in the scene. You build on what they give you. And so for me in business, this means the first answer cannot be no. It's okay, how might this work? How can we tweak this? Ooh, yes, and. It's not about being naive. It's not about forcing things to work that are not good ideas, things that are not going to work. It's all about creative problem solving with an open mind. It's about being strategic. So that simple example I gave you about the font, about someone saying no, and then me very quickly just fixing it. It's about bringing that energy to everything. It's about having a solution. It's about, okay, this is what we really want. So how can we make it a reality? How can we make this work? And I love this example of my font because it's so simple, it's so basic, but it's all about the energy. Someone saw this problem and they just said, no, won't work, next. And the next person said, oh yeah, this is how we can fix it. The people who are resourceful, the people who think about it, the people who are open, the people that are expansive, the people that have energy, that are open to yes and let's figure it out, are the ones who are the most successful. They're the ones who are quantum leaping. They're the ones who are getting rich. The people that say no first, it's not just rigid, it's limiting. It's keeping you small. It's leading with a pessimism that just is not serving you. And this will show up in your business. So I want to tell you about a story of an experience I had where I was with a client and I was with one of her employees. And we were brainstorming everything: marketing, lead generation, services, talking about the facilities. And I noticed very, very quickly that the answer to everything that came out of this employee's mouth was no. And to me, that energy, it creates friction for the working environment, for the team, for your clients, for you as the CEO. And if you're a solopreneur, this is the same thing. Leading with no is not going to serve you as well as yes and. So whether you have employees, whether you're a solopreneur, I want you to ask yourself, where do you lead with no in your business? Where do the leaders in your company lead with no in your business? That won't work for me before even trying it. I can't spend money on that before exploring, before trying it, seeing if the juice is worth the squeeze. Oh no, that's not how we do things, before considering another opportunity. I think the more open-minded you can be, the most successful you will be. The most successful entrepreneurs that I know, they always want to hear more. Even if the answer is no, they want to hear more from other people, because the more information you gather, the more educated of a decision you can make, the more capable your decisions will be, because you're gathering all this information, all this data. And so I'm not saying the answer always has to be yes. The answer can be no. And also, are you exploring all the avenues? Are you gathering all the information before you say no? Because here's the thing about no first thinking. It's often actually a nervous system response. It's not a logical response. It is this protection. It is this response where we think we're being practical, but it's really just fear-based. And there's a lot of subconscious blocks that I see as a coach with people who tend to say no first, whether this is you, whether this is the people you hire, whether this is the people working for you. And really, it's about a deep belief that saying yes is going to create a lack of control, a lack of safety, a loss of self. When people default to no before they've even processed the information, it's almost always related to one of these underlying feelings. So I want to go through them with you in a little bit more detail. So first is control as a safety mechanism. Someone who says no immediately that doesn't feel safe saying yes, it's because their nervous system learned that saying no keeps them in control. And everyone likes to be in control. They like to be in control of themselves, their business, the situation, because control means safety. Saying yes feels like handing away power to someone else. And that can feel threatening at a subconscious level. You will often see this from environments where things were unpredictable, where things were chaotic, where the childhood was not safe. It's so common. And look, let me just tell you, I'm a control freak. I love being in control. Just this week, I did a self-coaching session where I used the AI clone of me to coach myself. And it was like, do you see how you're refusing to give up control here? And I was like, oh, wow, no, I didn't. So I totally understand this. I have a lot of firsthand experience with this. Giving up that control can be safe. We have to teach our nervous system that, because when we give up control, spoiler, we're never always in control. Even when we feel like we are, it's usually a false sense of control, but it allows so much more possibility. One of the other underlying things with saying no all the time is scarcity. Scarcity is so common. It is scarcity thinking around time, around money, around energy, around resources. There's this belief that I don't have enough. I don't have enough energy to do this. There's not enough time to do this. I don't have the bandwidth for this. This is going to cost too much money. So the no is a way of protecting ourselves. But again, it comes from fear, not from discernment. There's also this fear of being taken advantage of. So people who say no really instinctually, maybe they have been taken advantage of in the past. They somewhere, somehow along the lines learned that being open, being vulnerable can end up in being used. And it's this automatic no, this wall that you put up that protects you from people who usually take from them without giving back. And this also can be similar to like people pleasing. So the other thing I see is people pleasing over correction. And this is so common because people pleasing is really common, especially with women. They're used to saying yes to everything. They got burned out on it. They're resentful. And then they go in the complete opposite direction. The no isn't actually about the boundaries. It's like a trauma response. It's just a trigger. Someone asks you, someone tells you to do something, someone wants you to do something, and the response is just no, because I don't want to have to overgive. I don't want to have to do something to make you happy. So the answer is just no. And then the other fear around this is a fear of failure, because saying yes may mean that you have to do something, which means you can mess it up, which means that you could fail. But when you say no, you're keeping yourself safe from any outcome that you can't control. You're keeping yourself safe from failing, safe from having to do anything where you won't be a success. But here's the thing about this. Every time you're leading with no, you are closing a door that could have led to so much more. It could be a breakthrough. It could be a possibility. It could be a great idea. It could be making more money. And so now that you're aware of these reasons, these subconscious blocks underneath, my hope is that you will notice them in real time and be able to question yourself of, is this a real no, or am I protecting something? Is it a fear? And how can I be a yes and? Would it make sense for me to be a yes and? So let's talk about how to become a yes and leader, not just a person, but someone who leads their business with this mentality and leads in their life with this mentality. The first step is to notice every time you say no. And I'm not talking about boundaries, about when you don't want to do something, but just notice when your gut reaction is resistance instead of expansion. And ask yourself, is this like a real no, or is this just like fear taking over? Am I trying to protect myself? Am I trying to stay in control? Because here's the thing, your intuition is going to know. It always knows. And if you're not sure, this is work for you to do on your intuition. Get really quiet and just notice what your body feels like for a yes and for a no in general. And if you're not sure what your intuition is telling you, this is an amazing invitation for you to lean into your intuition. What do you think it is? And then keep a diary. Were you right? Were you wrong? Maybe you think of a time when you did something and you really didn't want to and it didn't work out. Or the opposite. A time when you really wanted to do something and it did. And notice what came up for you then. What did you feel like in your body in those times? Doing these things will strengthen your intuition so you can catch yourself if you are just doing that automatic no. And what I know through experience is that people who have a stronger sense of intuition are more open to the yes and, to the exploration, because they're more open to expansion, into growing, into possibilities, into what is available in the quantum field. Instead of saying, well, will this work, which is yes or no, ask yourself, how will this work? Because when you ask yourself a question, your brain automatically tries to figure it out. So if you give yourself a yes or no question, you're closing the door. But open-ended questions keep our brain moving. that keep us thinking. So if you say to yourself, how might this work? Your brain's job is to figure out an answer to the question. And if you can start implementing, asking yourself this how, you are going to notice that your creativity expands greatly. You are going to notice that the possibilities available to you are just huge. The third step is really to be around as many yes and people as possible. You are who you surround yourself with. So if you want to think bigger, you want to be around those people. Audit your inner circle. Audit who you're hanging out with. Audit your friends. Audit your contractors. Audit your team. The people who problem solve with you are your greatest asset in business. Because yes and people figure things out when shit hits the fan. Yes and people are the people you want to hire. Point blank, period. They are the people who get shit done. They are the people who figure things out and they make the best employees. Gosh, one of my greatest hires ever was at this last company I ran, and I hired this amazing VA. Everything I asked, she was like, I'm not sure, but I'll figure it out. Like, she was the epitome of yes and she was the best employee. If you have already hired a yes and person, like, you are sold. You already know how amazing it can be. If you are a yes and person, you notice exactly when you are interviewing or when you're working with people who are not yes and people. So for my solopreneurs, for my people looking to hire, for my people scaling and growing, I think that this should be at the top of your interview questions. If you can't figure something out, how would you handle it? Give them real life situations on this. Ask it in a few different ways and figure out if they're a yes and person, because a yes and person can run any kind of company. They can have any kind of skill set because they figure shit out. And then the last step to this is that I want you to apply it to your next level. So whatever you're working on right now, it could be a new service offer. It could be an investment in yourself. It could be a pivot in your business. It could be hiring. I want you to ask yourself, and this is something you can journal on, is your first answer, how do I make this happen? Or why won't it work? And my hope for you is that you are a how person. The how am I going to make this work? And if you're not, practicing these other steps and just this awareness is going to get you there. It's going to help build you into someone who is a how do I make this work instead of a this won't work. Why won't this work person? Because yes and is really a manifestation practice. You can't simultaneously hold the belief that I want to expand. You simultaneously cannot hold the desire of, I want to expand, I want to be bigger, I want a quantum leap, I want the this, I want the that, and that won't work in the same body, in the same vision. You have to pick one. So here's your homework for the week. I want you to think about one area of your business or life right now where you have been leading with no. Maybe it's something you've been putting off in your business because you didn't want to do it, an investment that scares you, something you keep talking yourself out of in your life, in your business. What would it look like to say yes and to that? And I'm not talking about being reckless. Again, the answer can end up being no. But how can you lead with curiosity? And what becomes possible for you when you start asking yourself how instead of if? And if you want to share your yes ands with me, how you turned this around, if you notice how you've changed your perspective on this, how you've caught yourself, I would love to hear it. Send me a DM on Instagram at Jillian Minter. There's nothing I love more than hearing from all of you. And until next Thursday, happy manifesting. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you're still here, I know you're serious about quantum leaping your income, and that commitment is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Here's what I want you to do next. Pick one insight from today and take action on it. Because here's the thing, transformation happens in the implementation, not just the inspiration. If this episode shifted something for you, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. It helps other ambitious, heart-centered women find the show. And if you're ready to take this work deeper and finally break through that income plateau, I'd love to invite you to book a discovery call with me. Because here's the thing, podcasts give you the what, but coaching gives you the how. It's what takes you from, I know what I should be doing, to, holy shit, I actually did it. Head to the show notes or to jillianminter.com to grab your spot on my calendar. Until next week, keep choosing abundance over scarcity, alignment over hustle, and remember, you're meant for more. You just have to believe it's yours.